You say, well, I haven't been the right kind of a husband and I haven't been the right kind of a father. What am I going to do? You're going to let Christ into your heart. You're going to ask Him to forgive your sin and come into your life and make you the right kind of a husband and the right kind of a father. Showtime! Woo! Woo!
Like, ugh, quit chewing your lip. Because it's usually just be this backup shot. And then it would like zoom in when I was talking. And I'm over here like, all that movement I do, that thing picks me up. So I got to stop the head bob. Man, that's going to be tough.
So we're back on You Are the Man podcast. Just getting started today. Got a new guest here. Introduce yourself, man.
My name's Dave Crooks. I work at Evans Training Center in Welford, South Carolina.
Welford.
Yeah, big town of Welford. That's where I grew up. Dave, I had an opportunity to meet Dave, I guess a couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of the story that putting everything together for the discipleship study I was doing. After I wrote the book, I mentioned wanting to do a study. And God kind of laid it on my heart to do one in the community, and I was looking for a place, and man, God led me to Dave. So
quite the place. How'd y'all hook up?
So Chuck McGraw goes to church with us, and I think it's his nephew.
That's right. Yeah, Ben Dismukes is Chuck's nephew.
Nephew, right. So I knew the whole family. So Chuck McGraw's dad is my grandfather's best friend. That's the one I went to Mexico with. And then Chuck, he was just telling me, he said, man, you need to go check with Evans, And I knew about Evans. I'd heard about Evans Training Center through the mill because we'd done some partnerships with them, but I didn't really – I didn't think, oh, man, they got a facility and I can go and work with them. But, man, I'm going to tell you, with the story of my dad, dealing with addiction and what Evans does and God putting that together and just walking into this man's office, he come in with a smile on his face, invited me into his office. We sat down and talked for like 2 hours.
Yeah. He definitely come. He's like, man, this dude was awesome. This dude's so fun. I think he bought him lunch one day. I think Chucky's always the one buying lunch or something because he's like, man, he bought my lunch. It was amazing.
He talks me into going on a mission trip.
Yeah. No, let's get into that too, man. I was trying to tell my wife about that. I was like, dude, God is just on this.
It is. He is. He's all around the conversations. And again, it's not nothing I put together. It's just me going out, sharing my heart with someone, and them like, hey, go check with this, and just watching God work has been amazing. But Dave, like I said, I haven't known him but maybe a couple months, but he opened the doors of Evans Training Center, and again, Evans Training Center is I'll let you talk about it. What's the Evans do?
Yeah, Evans Training Center. It's a residential program for men struggling with addiction. They're there for 10 months long. 40 weeks to be exact, and then another 10 weeks for like a transitional phase. But if you are in addiction and you are stuck like Chuck, and maybe you've tried all the other easier and lighter ways, but keep on going back around the mountain again and again and again, we're a good spot to take a very long-term time out and get to the bottom of this thing once and for all.
So 10 months. I mean, they put everything on hold, jobs and everything.
Yes.
And because it's life or death at this point.
Right.
So it's not 28 days. It's 10 months, and it's not necessarily 12 step. I mean, it's like a Christian base.
Yeah, it's Christian discipleship. Now, I would say there are elements of the 12 steps that are mixed in throughout the curriculum, but not in a strict order and not even on purpose. Just there's some overlap with that.
I'm pretty sure those 12 steps came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Came from a pretty good book, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but you're right. It's it's not a place, if you're coming to Evans, it's probably because you're at a place where you're not able to hold the job anyways. So that's usually not a concern for people coming out of jail who are in jail for the 15th time. I mean, people are good at getting jobs. They're not good at keeping them when they're at a certain stage in addiction. So, yeah, it is a place where you got to be kind of, I don't like saying at the bottom. At the bottom is different for every person. But you got to come to a conclusion that I got a way bigger problem than just alcohol or just meth.
Yeah.
I got something majorly wrong inside. I mean, I want to get that right, whatever it takes. And if this place can help me get that right, usually the guy with that mentality doesn't care how long it is, doesn't care what the rules are, just knows that they know they need something different. And that's a good candidate for us. Alternatively, if we start talking to somebody on the phone who's interested and say, okay, you can't smoke here, you're not going to make money here. What?
I was
Can't
surprised
smoke cigarettes?
when I saw the no smoking sign. I said it to you. I was like, "What? You guys are harsh. These guys are, kicking major stuff, man." I can only talk because I've been there, and smoking's like one of the last things you hold on to.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we're on the hunt for the guy who says, if not smoking cigarettes is what it takes to change my life forever, who cares about smoking cigarettes? And I'm on the hunt for the guy who says, screw you if I can't smoke. You're not ready for this place for sure.
Yeah,
You're not ready to submit your life to God and all that he's going to ask you to do for sure.
I love how you guys come at it too. It's almost like when Jesus said, follow me, right? If you're going to follow me, you've got to die to yourself. And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You've got to die to all these other things to come do this.
That got you where got you where you are.
Yeah.
You're ready to do something different.
Yeah, so man, that's awesome. And addiction has definitely touched my life. Like I said, everybody knows the story of my father. Like I said, died 2.5 years ago, drug overdose. I've had other people in my family that have struggled with addiction. A brother, and you yourself have had issues in the past with addiction. So, man, I love the work you're doing. I wish this program was around when my dad was here. That's one thing. My wife even asked me that the other day. She said, hey, if Evans was here, and I don't even know what brought the conversation up.
Wow.
But if Evans was here, she said, "Do you think your dad would have went into there?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he loved to cook too, because it had to do with the eggs, bringing the eggs in. She said, "Oh, he loved to cook. I bet he'd been cooking for everybody, and because that was his thing." I said, "Yeah, I wish it had been here, but
Man.
but
somebody's dad is in there.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody's dad's in there right now and cooking eggs and eating plenty of eggs, I guess. But
And that's my hope. It's not just about promoting discipleship, which I want to promote discipleship, and I want it to be a community thing, and I want it to just flourish and go from place to place. And I'm challenging every single man that's coming through my discipleship program that you're going to be doing a one-on-one discipleship when you leave here. But it's also bringing recognition to Evans and what they're doing and partnering with that mission, and having these guys that that are not part of this to come and serve at Evans and promote it in their churches. Because we've got many churches that are coming to this discipleship. And I love it, man.
Yep.
I just love watching God work and him put everything together.
I mean, like we were talking about, it may be addiction that has those guys in there, but it's that battle and that that devil is no different than anybody's sin, and the feelings and that hole. That thing that we need to work on is the same for everybody, whether they're fighting with addiction or whatever sin it may be. And
So
we can relate.
with your issues, when you were struggling with this, Stephen, did you go into a program?
Yeah, I did. But it was more like I was kind of forced. Like
Oh,
I got in some trouble, and my lawyer and the person I was talking to was like, "You should probably take some time off, drop everything, cut these ties, do this program." And at that point, before I had even admitted everything, I was like, okay, something's got to change. And, it wasn't a faith-based place, and it was amazing. And the turnaround was amazing, and the transition time afterward and everything. And then of course, like I say a lot, looking back, I go, man, God was in that, on that. That was God the whole time. That was my big struggle, was not giving him the credit for everything. And so yeah, it was when I hear what y'all are doing that long, and it means these guys made that decision. I mean, they're not being forced in there. That's not some government thing. It's like and like you said, they're at their bottom, and it's different. Yeah. It's wherever you choose it to be. You can push it, and we all know you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to end up dead, or you're going to get clean. And those guys are taking it seriously.
Yeah, that's mostly true, what you just said. So there are guys who are there. And frankly, at this point, we've built enough of a reputation in our community that the court system is trusting us a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so there are guys who are sentenced there to Evans Training Center.
Sentenced or like highly recommended?
Some are
like
sentenced.
I was. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
They've got to complete this program or have a higher consequence. We don't love that. I don't like that because unfortunately, there's a fear motivation there to complete it. But that does happen. And then there are many of them who are there because of an ultimatum. from a family member or.
Well, how about some of those that you said were sentenced there? I mean, I bet you have success stories. I'm sure there's some.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean,
absolutely. So my perspective is the Lord will take us however we're going to come, and so some come with ankle monitors. So that's what they need to be able to actually just not run away. Yeah. Although some have come with ankle monitors and run away and cut those off. That has actually happened. However, if God is after somebody, He's going to use whatever to get their attention. And I've got plenty of stories of guys who came there with the wrong motives, and then in time God got a hold of their heart.
That's how Stephen came to my small group, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the government said you need to go see Chucky.
Right. Yeah.
He came to my small group with the wrong motives. Next thing you know, got a hold of him.
Right.
Well, no, I will say one thing about the 12-step program and NAAA, that stuff was just all something I kind of danced around forever, even after I got clean, and there was mistakes in that. And then I look at church, and I looked at joining a big church and a small group, and just where I was putting my roots, and I go, man, I cannot be on the outskirts. I got to jump in, and so I did, and unfortunately, it hooked me up with Chucky, so that means going to Uganda and doing a podcast and everything else. But it's
we done got Dave pulled in,
it's
man.
Been a lot, I know.
Yeah. Dave thought when I met with him a couple months ago, he was like, "Oh, this guy's just coming in to use the facility." No, man, you going on a mission with
So
me, brother.
anybody that listens to this podcast knows Chucky feels very strongly about at the age 15 is like this magical age where I take my kids on mission, and you say it, and my kids are small, so
He mentioned I got a 15-year-old son. I'm like, hey.
let me. I kick that can down the road, but Chucky does kind of call you out on that. Like there is a really big opportunity there, and tell me how you got on the trip.
Well, God had already been working on my heart about that. Some version of that. I've got a ministry mentor that's been helping me for years, and he tells a story about how him and his son's relationship, his teenage son, was really not in a great place, and they actually started to really not like each other very much at all.
Sure.
And so what he ended up doing is he had his wife drop him and his son off in the middle of a big city, and they lived as homeless individuals for a week.
What?
Yeah, of course.
Checked into the rescue mission.
That's what I would do.
And the perspective was let's help Junior get a perspective of reality here.
Sure.
And that created a new relationship in them. And that had just been rolling around in my head. And I've been thinking, my son is 15. I don't have much longer with him.
That's much cheaper than going to Uganda.
Yeah, that is cheaper. Yeah. Yeah. And I had been just in the back of my mind, I've been looking and waiting for the right opportunity to do something like that with my son, where we could bond, where he could get a perspective shift. And so you coming in, it was just the right time. And as you were talking, I knew in the first 5 minutes, this is what I'm supposed to do. And James could not be more excited right now about doing this thing.
Yeah, they're going to love him. I mean, that's that age, that young kid like that.
Well, me taking I'm taking my daughter, but still same age bracket, just having other kids that age being on the trip together, I'm telling you, it just makes it better, man. Because they're going to have so much fun playing with the kids. There's going to be, I'm telling you, as soon as they walk out there, kids are just going to rush to them. I mean, they're going to be superstars. So, and what's going to be glad is us to sit back and watch it happen.
Yeah.
Like look at our kids go. Look at them going and serving the kingdom of God. And I'm going to tell you, it's an emotional thing, but it's powerful. And man, I'm so excited. I'm going to tell you, I was very surprised because we had our meeting, and of course, I was excited. I'm like, man, I've got a place. Thanking God, sitting here, and then I think it wasn't even maybe a week later, he sends me a text and says, I'm going to Uganda with you.
Bud, best buddy.
Yeah. And I'm like, yes.
But it goes to show what we talk about is it's our job to plant that seed. And all you do is have that conversation. And that same conversation you have a lot, right? And you do mention that to people that when it comes up, how important that is. And that's it. You weren't trying to reel them in. No. Right? I
was sharing testimony.
Yeah, exactly. And God, who had already, been working, like you said, just made it happen, man.
And that was a big thing about this past week in our discipleship. We got in our little breakout groups, and we were talking, because I shared a lot of testimony this week, and shared too much. But we got into our breakout groups, and I'm like, man, everybody, I said, y'all need to be sharing. Your story is important. Your story impacts and encourages people, and just like mine did. You know, I didn't do anything special. I came in and told him about how God had touched my life and things that had really made a difference in my, relationship with my child. And he's like, "Man, I've been waiting on this, and let's do it."
Yeah.
So
And we had that conversation in here. How many men, especially, kind of belittle their story if they don't have some extreme kind of testimony? But it's all those stories. Everybody has one. And
I told them guys that a lot of those guys that's in the discipleship have been through the Evans Training Center program and either coming back or maybe they're leading there in some capacity. I'm like, y'all could write a way better book than I am.
Their
right?
testimonies are movies.
Yeah.
Movie stuff. Yeah.
Like, you got some stuff, man.
It's funny you bring that up, Steve, because I was telling Chucky, I was riding with my son. Maybe I wasn't telling you, maybe I was telling somebody else, but it was last weekend. I brought him with me just to do a little side job to help somebody on Saturday morning, and we were just riding in the truck. And I said, James, what would you say if somebody asked you what your testimony was? And
Thanks, Dad. Saturday morning question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he sat there quiet for a minute, and then he was a little bit stumped, and he said, I listened to your testimony, and he grew up in drug rehab world, so he's heard tons of testimonies of like big things, and he's like, I think I prayed to God when I was 5 and gave my heart to Him, and he felt almost like he doesn't have a testimony or something like that. And so I spent the next 10 minutes or so telling him that he does have a testimony. And I said, here's a version of your testimony. How about this? How about God was so good to me in my life that He got a hold of my mom and dad.
Yeah. Because your testimony is His as well.
Yeah. And so I got the blessing of coming up second generation and not having to go through all that craziness. And James, the rest of your testimony is in the making.
Yeah, you're right.
At 15 years old, you're on the journey. You don't know what God's going to have in store for you here.
His testimony after July is going to get way better. He's going.
It's so powerful,
explode.
and for me, for somebody that grew up in the church and kind of went away, or definitely went away and came back, I'm so in awe of people that gave their life at a young age and stayed that course. And it's like, this is one of the, kind of big regrets and waste of time or whatever that I look back and really look at people like that's an amazing testimony itself.
Well, my son was the same way. Because I took him when he was 15, and he said the same things like, "Dad, I don't have this awesome testimony like you have." Like growing up in trucks, and all I can say is, "Man, I was raised in a Christian home. Got saved when I was a kid."
But that alone is a testimony.
It is. That alone shows you, the fruits. But and I promote books all the time. One thing I want to recommend to you, Dave, is to read Anchorman. There's a chapter in there called Three-Peat, and it talks about how you're the anchor, right? And you're anchoring this new chain and this new legacy that you want to leave. And you do have a powerful testimony. But the struggle is not what you've done. It's going to be for your children to carry it on generation after generation. So we may think, I don't have much, our kids may think, I don't have much of a testimony, but they do. And theirs is going to be saying, I linked onto my father to carry on, what he taught me. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
Appreciate it.
That's awesome.
I'm curious. I was telling Chucky, and I'll just tell Steve for his sake. So my son, my wife, and I just found out, like yesterday, the day before, he's in the middle. He's fasting. And
on his own.
Yeah, like what? What are you doing?
What kid does that?
And and so we come to find out he started fasting on Tuesday, and he's planning on fasting till tonight, till he eats dinner. He's fasting and asking God for wisdom because he wants to approach me and his mother about something.
Oh man,
I got no idea what's fixing to come
You're not
tonight.
Sweating. You're not sweating.
I mean, I got some ideas, but my background thought though is, man, I was not thinking I need to pray and fast for the Lord's wisdom when I was 15 years old. Yeah, so I was already way down in the road in the wrong direction.
What's different with him at 15 than you? Like, what's different? And it's probably you, right? I don't know.
Tell me, how did fasting come into it?
I don't even know. I don't know. I mean, I know he's been around church and he's heard prayer and fasting, and but this is the first time he has made a personal spiritual decision.
Wow.
to this degree.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell us about it either. And he's not. You wouldn't know that he was.
Yeah.
Except we're just like, why are you not eating?
That's
And-
amazing.
and
I mean, that's
eventually-
humble in itself. There.
That's what you're supposed to do.
I mean, if you're going to ask Dad to buy you a new truck, then I guess you better.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, what's fixing to
Well,
come tonight?
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
following up, man. I want to hear that.
Yeah.
But that's just so impressive. Like you said, at 15, to be that spiritually mature.
We're gonna bring him in.
But
here.
that just shows you what he's been around
Yeah.
and how he's been guided. And the whoever the spiritual leader of his house is probably doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that, fasting definitely still has its place, and we don't talk about that. We don't talk, and even me, there's been times in my life that I've fasted, but what he's doing and not telling people and just doing it, that's
Humility,
what
yeah.
you're supposed to be doing.
Like my
So-
kids do it, but it's because they don't eat vegetables. So like, that's all we got. And
Yeah, I'm doing it right now,
you're
but I got a
fasting.
wedding to be at in May. I mean, I gotta be in the pictures,
Yo,
That's awesome. So tell us about your family. You got how long you been married?
Lacey and I will be married 19 years in December.
Wow.
Yep, 19 years. Yeah.
High school
you
sweethearts?
look like you're
or-
25. So
I'm
like, what in the
42.
world, man?
Yeah, I'm 42 years old. No, we met. So ironically, the drug program I went through in Florida, her father had went through a few years before I did.
Oh, really?
Yep, and it's a church. And so they had services on Sunday. And so after he finished his program, they just kept coming out there to church on Sundays. And so it was a vacation Bible school one week in the summer, and I was working the soundboard, and she was one of the youth leaders for the girls. And we just noticed each other.
Her dad let her talk to you.
He was not happy at front. Her mother, within days or weeks, her mother's like, Lacey's getting married, and her dad's like, shut up, Danielle. So
I don't know. For some reason, I was just picturing like him sitting there, like strobe lights on him, smoke behind him, and sitting on the board.
Yeah. Oh, I can see where the attraction came from for you. But mom and dad, especially dad, you said went through it, right?
Yeah,
he
he
knows
was-
you. He's
he
like,
was scared.
This
That's
guy, he ain't ready.
and at this time I'm like 22, 23,
Sure.
been sober for 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah.
It's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah,
You're
this
ready.
is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to get married and provide for your daughter. I have like $500.
Yeah.
That's it. So
That's awesome.
How
But-
many kids?
we have 4. Yep,
Oh.
4 kids. So James, Carolina, Elijah, and Harmony.
What's their ages?
15, 13, 12, and 10.
Cool.
I think for a second there.
What's great about this, though, is like especially you're taking the oldest one on this mission trip.
Yeah.
Is that you're both going to come home and talk about it and talk about the impact it is. And like I said, in 2 years you're going to be doing this again, probably less.
I hope so.
So that's awesome.
If you're
So-
around Chucky, he'll make sure you know.
Oh, he's around me now. It's too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
So
Did I ask James? Has he been on a mission trip before?
No.
So
never.
first mission trip straight to Uganda.
that's Colin. Colin had never flew before. His first flight, and that's a 24 to 28 hour flight.
Oh man.
He's like, Dad, what in the world?
Yeah. Don't even tell him about the flight.
Yeah.
Don't even.
That's the worst part.
Yeah.
That's definitely the worst part. Out of everywhere I've been, Uganda's, I don't know. You got 2 legs, and the 2 legs are one's 10 hours, one's 8 hours. You think this is never going to end.
Yeah.
And it's really bad for me because I'm 6'3".
Yeah, your kids are tall too.
Andrew's a giant.
A few years back at Evans Training Center, we have our guy who's our director of operations right now. His name is Josh Stanley. And he was one who didn't want to come to the program. And he was fighting it the whole way. As a matter of fact,
He's the director.
Well, he's the director of operations,
Operations,
the
okay.
COO, I guess you would call him. So on his way to his interview, his mom was driving, and he took a fake phone call from Ben Dismuke. Said, "Oh, I can't come. That sucks. I really wanted to come."
Oh,
You know?
from the center.
Yeah.
They called him and said, "You're not in."
Right. This is just Josh
Yeah.
making up
Yeah,
his
he's
phone call.
just like me sitting
in
here
front
like
of
this.
his mom.
Yeah, I guess.
Dude, addicts are
To
creative.
try to just manipulate her. So she pulled over and told him, get out of the car. You're not coming home. And so he reluctantly let her, bring him to the center. So that's how he came in. And he sat down in his interview and was like this,
Yeah.
just pissed to be there. And so his attitude sucked. And
Were you there at this time? So
Yeah.
how long have you been there?
8 years.
From the beginning? Is it how long?
I've been there 8 years. It's been existing for, I guess, 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've
Always right here in Lyman or close.
Yeah, hidden in different spots,
Yeah, yeah.
but in the background. But Josh Stanley, I remember Ben interviewing him and saying, there's only one reason we're working with you, and it's just because of our relationship with this person. That's the only reason you're here. Otherwise, you'd be gone. And he had a rough program for sure, and his attitude, the Lord had to work on his heart. We saw that his heart was changing. Well, there's two main instances. One, he came to us about 3 weeks into the program, and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, I got to tell you guys something. I know what I'm about to tell you probably means I can't be here anymore, but I can't live this way anymore. I got to tell you the truth about this. And when I came in, I had some heroin hidden in my wallet, and I went and I did it in the bathroom about a week ago or so. And ever since then, I just feel like God is telling me, you're not doing that anymore, son. You need to tell the truth. And he said, I know this means I'm gone, but I got to tell you the truth.
He told you that.
And he broke down, and Ben Dismukes just sat there silent for a minute, and then he got a big smile on his face, and he says, I am so encouraged right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh is like, what? That was step one.
Yeah, what addict is going to go
Yeah.
admit like that?
But the thing is he was obedient to what God told him to go do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if it took
And
that,
Ben,
it took
Ben
that.
saw it. And
It
Ben
took
saw
that.
it.
About halfway through his program, he was pretty arrogant and prideful all through his program. And at one point, he doesn't like me telling the story. He's got a different version of it. He thinks I'm telling
Well,
it
he's got to come on here and he can tell
inaccurately.
it.
Yeah, but he didn't think the leaders were doing what they needed to be doing around there the way he thought they should.
Oh, yeah.
And so he got some guys together, and they were going to come confront the staff.
They're going to unionize.
That's right. Yeah, and so that didn't go well for him. And then he made the comment to somebody, if they day one me here, I'm out of here, because he had run through kind of his disciplinary actions, and there wasn't much left except, look, we don't know what to do with you. You can either leave or you can start over. That's a tough thing to go through, but he got day one.
Oh, no.
And he had to start the program over again. And something shifted in him during that time. Well, then an opportunity came up for him to go on a mission trip. In the middle of his program, his parents contacted us and said, hey, I know this is not normal, but we really think the Lord might be in this. Anyway, Josh should go with us to Nicaragua. And we prayed about it, and we just had a sense that this is something that's from the Lord. So we let him go. And that was absolutely life-changing. He needed to see them kids living in a garbage dump so bad, to put his life in perspective.
Yeah.
That was monumental for him, so much so that he came back, and then he organized a recovery mission trip to Uganda. And so we had several guys from Evans go and build a bunch of not in Uganda, in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
So we had several guys go to Nicaragua on 2 occasions so far and build a bunch of houses. And it's been really, really special. So
We just think about where they are in the middle of that stage of recovery. They're so raw, so just beaten up, and you got the good and bad. You got that roller coaster thing, and then to throw something like mission work in the middle of that, I can't imagine.
you're so in addiction, you're so self-focused.
Yes.
You don't realize how self-focused you are,
Right.
really. But it's everything is about you and for you and because of you and you me. And then to take that and go to a place like Nicaragua or Uganda or somewhere you see actual innocent poverty. And what stuck Josh is that these kids living in a dump were so full of joy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
He says that about Uganda, and I'm
gets
tell you what, man, I'm gonna say that about Evans.
Yeah.
The one uplifting thing for me, for someone that's been through, is seeing those guys, and we barely see them. They come in, we put the chairs up at the end or whatever. But dude, there is joy in there, and there's some relief and some ease, and I mean, I can still see that there's pain and all that, but it's palpable there. Seriously,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've every one of them. I love every week when I come in. I'm setting up. They're always smiling on their face, man. Glad to see that I'm there, and they're like, "We just want to make sure you finish at 8:30 so we can come out of our places."
Well, they got to sit in their room.
Yeah, they're stuck in their rooms.
Yeah, you're stuck in our rooms while you're doing this. But I'm like, guys, come out, or you're not stuck in there. Come out and walk around with us. Sit out here. Or, I don't care. You're
Listen,
not bothering us.
audit,
Yeah, be a part of this. But yeah, just seeing their joy and the conversations I've had with them, and hearing some of the testimony, and like I said, even some of the guys, I've been bouncing around to different breakout groups on the discipleship, and as I'm bouncing around, I'm getting to kind of get to know some of the other guys that's been through the program before, man, their testimonies, like I said, just will rock you. And
Well, that's the big
love.
testimony to me is the people that have come through there and now work there.
They work there.
And the young kid, and
Yeah.
then not only that, they're part of this discipleship on Tuesday nights, and it's just like that shows you that it's real, and God's got His hand all over it.
my thing, and I've told you this, that one of my goals to this whole thing is to prove without a shadow of a doubt, to let them know that you are the man. God's made you a man. He's put you here for a reason, that there's a purpose behind what you've went through, and He's going to use that. And don't keep it quiet. Tell the story. Tell your story. Be in discipleship, and quit doubting. Quit letting Satan whisper in your ear. You don't matter. You can't make a difference, because that's foolishness.
You used that word too when you were describing Evan's program, like it's a discipleship. That's something that's part of y'all's?
Yeah. So discipleship in the sense that we believe strongly in allowing the body of Christ to raise up the body of Christ, put a high premium on speaking the truth in love to one another, both as peers and from leader to student, I guess, if you want to say it that way. So all day long, we're speaking to things that we see. They're required to.
Right.
I was a part of that. I got a speaking to by one of your guys that used to be in the program. He's like, man, I got to tell you, and he was just flat out honest with something that he was dealing with. And to me, it's none of my business how you felt about me or judged me or whatever. That's not my business. Like, I got to do what I got to do. But he's like, this is just part of what we do, and I got to get this. And he just let me have it. He just put it all out there. And I was like, dude, that's impressive. That's just impressive.
Then Stephen asked me, he's like, is there something wrong with me?
What am I Beaumont, the other guy in the group, I'm like, what am I doing in there? Am I that crazy? I'm going to try to be a little more quiet.
Oh, no.
I haven't been in Romar's breakout group yet.
No, yeah, when you came, it was just a few of us.
He was in yours? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, Beaumont's in mine, but the one time you came to mine,
Yeah,
it was
I got to circle back around, man.
but there's some, dude, the in the discipleship is what I'm looking at, just the gambit of guys. It's just unreal. The age ranges, the backgrounds, everything, and it's beautiful what's happening. So
It is.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it helps. One of the things that we do different than some other programs is we're extremely heavily staffed. So there's 19 guys living in that dorm right now, but there's 12 full-time staff members. And those staff members are teaching them in the classroom in the mornings, but then taking them out on job sites in the afternoon. So they're mentoring them all day long.
tell me about the jobs. What kind of jobs do y'all do?
So we teach the guys while they're in the program how to professionally paint and landscape. So commercial and residential. So in our community, if you needed a paint job done or a landscaping job, you can call Evans and someone would come out and give you a quote, and then we'd get you on the schedule, and our team would go out there, and our staff will lead job sites on your turf, doing painting and landscaping.
And y'all stay busy? Plenty of business?
Yeah.
You need to put a link in this video?
Yeah, that's really important for us. It's important for the guys. It's tough to be in a place for 40 weeks straight. You can't just sit there in class all day long feeling sorry for yourself. Like, a man needs to do something.
And outside and seeing things be accomplished. That's the thing about landscape. As bad as I am at fixing things in landscape, it's just seeing things get completed and get done. Is there something about that?
Certainly. And it's their skin in the game. So we don't deal with insurance or government money or anything like that.
Okay, so where's all the funding from?
So half of it is donations, and the other half of it is the income we can produce from that painting and landscaping. So that's their skin. So they have to work 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and they don't get paid for that, but that covers the cost of their program.
Wait, they don't pay for the program?
No, they just have to be willing to do what we do and invest in themselves and learn. So they come in, most guys come in with nothing but the clothes on their back. And that's no problem. They're going to do what we do. Mm-hmm. So as long as they're willing to do that, we're good. And then when we get to the end of the program, we have an endowment set up with funds in it to help guys transition afterwards. So they don't leave empty-handed. When it's all said and done, help them come up with the transition plan, and then we fund that plan to help them get to their next step.
Well, how about clothing things? What are the needs? I know, like I said, you're doing an egg drive right now, and if you're listening to this podcast, and you want to donate some eggs, drop them by the Evans Training Center in Welford. they would happily take those
Any time of day, 8 day.
any time of day. There's a shortage. I don't know, and very expensive, and you can only buy so many. So they need the eggs, not the funding for it.
Yeah.
But what else can people do for you?
Well, the eggs thing was from time to time. Sometimes I put something out there just so the community can get hands on.
Yeah,
it.
we want to be that blessing. We want to be part of that.
And so we did have our kitchen manager mentioned the egg prices, and so I said, "Do you need eggs?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I could put the word out for eggs, and now eggs are coming in from everywhere."
She should have said beef tenderloin. She should have said we're short on
Tell
filet
me you need
mignon.
filet. Yeah. But that is a real thing, and I'll tell you a neat story. I just made a flyer, and I just got 1,000 of them printed. I was going to start putting them out there, and it talks about our need for food. And there's a number on there, but our food budget for the year is $26,000 this year. But I'm just going to tell you the story because it just happened yesterday. I got a phone call yesterday from a lady, and she said, "Hey, I was calling because God has put on my heart to give a gift to Evans Training Center. And I really feel like this gift is supposed to be for food. And I don't normally ask for a specific, use, but this is what I felt like God was telling me." She didn't know anything about my flyer I just made or the egg fundraiser or anything. And I said, "Well, that's interesting because I just printed some flyers asking for some funds for food. And, my budget this year for food is $26,000. And she just got quiet for a second. And then she started laughing. She said, "You're not going to believe this." But she said, the number that God put on my heart is to send you a check for $25,000 for food. And we both just paused there and just praised God. Like,
Goodness.
what? Okay. It's
What was her relationship with Evans? Or can you say?
no. She's interacted with us in the community over
Okay.
the last few years. We've done some work for her.
You must have done a good job.
Yeah. So I just say that to say, what are the needs right now? Well, I think the food budget's covered for
Yeah.
2025.
Now I need you to rewrite my flyer, ma'am.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking about that. Like, I need to print new ones. The other so here's an easy win if you're in the community. If we're talking about physical needs, we're going to go through 7,000 gallons of gasoline and 7,000 gallons of diesel fuel this year, about 44 grand in fuel. So it sounds kind of silly, but to come out there with a 5-gallon can of gas and say, "Here you go, guys," that matters, especially if 100 people do it.
Man, with this viewership, you better be, dude. You might get your 44,000 gallons.
That'd be beautiful. So we need fuel that helps us run our crews.
Yeah.
We got crews, trucks all over the road, and lawn mowers and things like that. That's just a budget item. 44 grand fuel.
Yeah.
And so our budget this year, my donation budget, what we have to raise is $710,000. And so I'm all year long, I'm hunting for little pieces of that budget that I could do fundraisers for to help with that. So every dollar matters. And then also we have an endowment fund that I'm not allowed to draw from until the balance reaches $500,000. So
you got to get the first part covered.
yeah, so there's $100,000 in there right now. So I'm on the hunt for somebody who just has a heart for this kind of thing and who says, "Yeah, I want to fund that thing." And that person's out there.
And the
somewhere.
ability, because I want to fund it.
Right, yes, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I just really...
The desire and ability.
And the ability. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that would help us out a lot. Yeah. So those are financial things.
Mm-hmm.
How about clothes and stuff? You mentioned like a lot of guys come in with nothing.
Right. So we have a clothing closet there in our big building, and right now it's full. It's full of stuff. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if it ever got low, I'd probably put feelers out there on Facebook. And then lastly, a lot of people when they ask how can we help, they're willing to write a check or give $1, but also what they really want to know is how can I be hands on here. Yeah. And so we're starting something different this year. We've never done it before. We're calling it Friendship Fridays.
Yeah, pizza party
and that's when you can come in at 9:30 in the morning, get your Evans shirt and hat, and jump on a crew with our guys and just go spend the day with one of our crews.
That's awesome.
With our staff and our guys, because you know how it is when you're working side by side with guys.
All right.
You get to know them.
Yeah.
The men from the Stephen Small Group.
I hear a challenge
I'll
coming.
get ready. We're fixing to go spend a day.
Man, go sweat it out.
Yeah. So.
But and to give them some interaction with some other people than each other? Because I'm sure that gets old.
Yeah, they get tired of listening to
the
us.
same 15
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Well, it's making connection. Plus, I mean, especially everybody in our small group, they know what Evans has done for us, and opening up the facility and stuff. But how can we give back and say thank you?
Friendship Fridays.
Yeah.
Come help.
One thing that I am going to do, and at the end of our discipleship study, and this is going to be on our last meeting that we come together, a buddy of mine who owns he does
He's broker with a smoker. You
broker
can
with a
find him
smoker.
on
It took me a
Facebook.
minute- took me a
Broker
minute to-
with a smoker.
broker with a smoker.
Russell Austin.
Yeah, he's
Shout
gonna
out.
he's gonna come in and smoke a bunch of butts, and
That's
so
awesome.
we want the whole crew and everybody to come in for that. So
That'd be great.
we're excited about that piece. But also, if you need landscaping needs, if you need painting, reach out to Evans Training Center. You can go to the website, and they'll reach out to them to contact you and let them come over and give you a quote. So that definitely helps them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just say on that note, it's not you're going to get a professional quality job. We're serious about the work that we do. It's excellent.
Oh, I know it's excellent. The first time I came out to meet you, I was walking the property. I'm like, man, his rock looks so much better than my rock. Why
Chucky
is
would
it
have
just
noticed
laid
that.
perfectly?
Yeah, we're all about excellence.
Oh,
Our
that's good.
guys are going to. We are
I saw
not
him.
leaving your job.
I saw him when he pulled up in my yard. He's like, ugh, what's going on with this yard?
That's not true. That's not true.
Get him out here,
It's
Chuck.
winter.
Get him out here.
Yeah, I got my boys doing that.
Yeah.
Steven's boys. So, man, you've told us a little bit. How about tell us a little about your story yourself. How did you get connected with Evans? And you've talked a little bit about you went through a program in Florida.
Yeah. So I guess my testimony really is I started using drugs when I was 14. And so by the time I was done with high school, I was already just way down in a deep hole. And I knew I was different than my friends played around and did stuff, but
And could stop.
would stop, and I would be the weird one who, when they were all done, would be just as hungry for more as when I started, and so I'd be the one that would make it weird, and take it way further.
Now, is this something you saw at home too? Or?
No, my dad was a good man, and he didn't mess around with stuff like that. Now my mother, she struggled with some depression, and they got a divorce when I was very young, and I think that broke her heart, and I think she was never quite the same after that, and she found some comfort in alcohol, and then she had a back surgery that didn't go well, and that started some pain pills, and it kind of just got her down a road that she was never really able to recover from. And so she was a little disengaged as a child. She's passed away now. And then my dad, he was a good man, and he didn't mess around. But I was an angry, pissed off kid. I felt like I had been done wrong by them getting a divorce and not figuring stuff out. And I had a chip on my shoulder about that.
That's a normal response. When I was little, I didn't understand. It's just lack of understanding.
Yeah.
It is. I was lonely, and I was pissed off. And somebody gave me some drugs at some point. I don't remember the first time even, but I do remember that when alcohol went down into my stomach and I felt that feeling, that I just wanted to feel that way forever.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I first snorted cocaine, and that feeling, man, I just wanted to feel that way forever.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't turn. Once I opened that door and woke that thing up, I was in love.
Yeah. And what do you credit that to? I mean, is it the drugs themselves, or was it what you were lacking? Feeling that?
I think all of the above. I think it was just a perfect storm of me being an emotional mess, and not having the Lord, and then the power of the chemicals to make you feel better and numb out. I was not able to be okay in my own skin ever. But then the drugs and the alcohol just numbed that, and I was free. I felt free. I didn't realize I was in bondage. I thought I was free.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All
But
until
you were more in bondage than before.
Yeah. All until I decided I'm going to stop,
The reality set in.
Yes. Does this sound familiar? Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop doing drugs now. Uh-oh. Yeah. I can't stop. Mm-hmm. And I realized through a bunch of horrible situations, car crashes, overdoses, all kinds of that kind of stuff. I realized I can't stop. I can't stop. Like I really.
Now, did you have any siblings or anything? Or
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Okay.
And then a half brother on both sides. And my sister, her escape was in achieving. So
Yeah.
where I went self-destructive, she went self-esteem, and she went in a good direction.
Right.
She used her talents and poured all into her career. I went the opposite way. So 21 years old, back in a bedroom in my dad's house, 3 a.m. I had been using cocaine all day and then drinking liquor all night to try to fall asleep so that I could get up in 2 hours and go back to work. And it just hit me. There's muted pornography on the TV in the background, so my dad and stepmom don't hear it. And I'm like, look at me. What have I become? Like, I'm 21 and all I could think about is what's the best way I could kill myself so I really get it done right, because I don't want to be paraplegic or something. But if I kill myself, my brother, what will he think? Right. And I finally just fell down to my knees. And I literally, there had been some church people that were trying to minister to me. And for the first time in my life, I forced myself to call in the name of Jesus. I heard that scripture, whoever calls upon the name of the Lord will be saved. And I knew his name was Jesus. But it felt so phony to me to call out, to say, Jesus, please help me. Please forgive me. I remember having to force it. It was a last resort, you know?
So these people from the church trying to minister to you, I mean, they didn't necessarily just pull you in and you're like, yes, but they, like we were talking about earlier, they planted those seeds.
They did. They planted seeds of primarily love, primarily acceptance and love, inviting me to things, including me in things. And then obviously at church, I'd hear the gospel, I'd hear the gospel, I'd hear the gospel. But yeah, there were Christians who were instrumental in that beginning time, just showing me love and sharing the gospel with me. And so when it was time to call on the name of the Lord, I knew what I needed to do. I knew what the gospel was. I'd never really done it. And so I called on the name of the Lord. I was saved in that moment of disgustingness when I had nothing to offer him, that was for sure. And then I called those folks, and they had friends who had a Christian drug rehab center in Okeechobee, Florida. And I just knew that's where I needed to go. I didn't care how long, I didn't care what the rules, I didn't care about anything. I just knew I needed to do something. I just got saved, and I need to figure out what that means now. And I probably am not going to stay sober just going to church on Sunday. I need to figure this out.
Wow, that's powerful. And the fact that you did that, I mean, God did that.
In the bedroom.
But you did it on your
I
own.
relate to that.
Yeah.
That's what I talked about that in mine. My testimony was, like I said, my father addiction and stuff, and I was going down the same road, and I never did drugs because I was always scared of them. I was scared to do drugs because I'm like, if I do this, I'm going to have the same issue with my dad, and I don't want to be that. But I would play around with alcohol, as a teenager and stuff, and like I said, go out and party with my friends. But the whole time, God was saying, "You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here." And it was me going home one night. Like I said, I was in high school and going in my bedroom and just seeing, my parents struggling, and I'm like, Lord, I don't want this for my kids. I need a change. And same thing, took me to my knees, man.
Yeah. And so that all similar. I mean, I was in that same bedroom you're talking about, and still didn't come to my senses. Right, still didn't make that on my own. I had to have some intervention. And I guess it takes what it takes, right? But it's just amazing how 3 very different stories and very different backgrounds, but how similar all those turned out. Yeah. It's unreal.
But one way out, right? Jesus.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
One way out. Jesus.
One good way out.
That's it.
Yeah.
We always had a father there that was calling to us the whole time. Trying to get us.
So I do love to say that, especially in a Christian group like this. I got clean in just a normal kind of rehabilitation center, and going to meetings and all this, and get to these things about this higher power. And I'm really trying to ask somebody about it, and like, what are we doing here? What is this? And he goes, it's Jesus, but you'll get there one day. You'll get there one day. And it's just fun because years later I go, he told me on day one. He told me like the first week. could have. Yeah, I'm just hard headed. I don't know. Yeah. But I want to, So what advice would you give? I mean, we've all been touched by it, and I guarantee people listening or everybody has a family member, a close friend, something that's touched by it. What, advice, like these guys from the church that just kept pouring into you or just kept reaching out to you. What advice would you give somebody that sees somebody going down that path?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked me that. There's at the missions conference at Church at the Mill. I'm going to do one of the breakout sessions, and it's that question. Say, what will you tell somebody?
This is practice.
Yeah, what would you tell somebody?
Spoiler.
Who's trying to help somebody?
You still got to come.
That's right. Sorry, Jason.
And I haven't figured out what I'm going to say yet, so I'm just going to make it up right now. I would just say from my own story, number one, absolutely keep planting seeds of love.
Love. You said it. That's the key. That's what we're missing.
Yeah, I thought God, either God was a jerk, or didn't care or whatever, but he definitely didn't love me because I didn't have an experience that seemed real that he loved me. It seemed like he forgot about me. Yeah. So it was the love of other people that made me say, these are interesting people, and they weren't even like me at all. This was a cowboy church. Yeah. So they wore cowboy hats, and they went horseback riding, and that is not how I was raised. I was like an outsider for this group, but this group, like, they loved me and just included me.
And what I've learned is not just them because they're great people. It's God. It's that they have Jesus in their hearts, and that's where I lacked. I'm like, I don't need a religion or God to make me be this way, and little did I know it was all about myself.
Second step, somebody from that group, that church group, picked up on what was going on with me more deeply and honed in on me more deeply. And he said, hey, I got some friends I really think that you would like to meet. Would you come with me to meet some of my friends over in Okeechobee this Sunday? And I'm like, yeah, sounds great. And so what he actually brought me to was this drug program in the middle of nowhere, and it was a graduation Sunday. And so what I got to see is a bunch of young men share their testimony about how they were addicts and how God intervened in their life and changed their life. And I heard all these stories from this place. I was just going to meet his friends, and so he invested in me and got me to that place to hear those things. And I was still, at that time, I didn't even realize why I was there. So we left that place, and I said to him in the car as we were leaving, man, thank God that there's a place like that for those people who need a place like that. Yep. That's so great. That really warmed my heart. Yep. Thanks, Jeff, for bringing me to that. And it truly didn't occur to me that I needed that place. Yep. But that was a sacrifice on his part. He entered into my life. He had a wife and kids, but that weekend he had just had me, and he came and got me, and he took me to this place where he knew I needed to see some things, and he let me see those things and brought me home. And he didn't jump down. He didn't say, you need that place. Yeah. He just smiled, knowing that I needed that place and knowing that I didn't know that I needed that place. Yeah. But when I was ready, I knew exactly where I was supposed to go. But I wouldn't have known had Jeff not stuck me in his car and exposed me to that. Yeah. So I say all that to say, if you are somebody who's trying to help somebody, unfortunately, the guy who needs help is the last one to realize it. Yep. Yeah. And he's the last one to know what he should do. They all think, I just need to get a job and make some money. Back to that self-centeredness.
We got it. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not what they need. They have plenty of jobs and lost them all. But maybe they do need to be exposed to a program graduation. It doesn't have to be at Evans, but we have a graduation every few months. Overcomers at Miracle Hill Overcomers in Greenville's got a graduation every 8 weeks. In Greenwood, Faith Home's got a graduation every 4 or 8 weeks, I think. Like there's programs like this around doing this sort of thing. Right. Maybe that person just needs to go for a ride with you and meet some of your friends. It just happens to be they're going to meet.
That's a good one.
And listen to some testimonies of people just like them and get those kind of seeds planted. Yeah. So when they do come to their senses in a bedroom later. They're like, I need to go there.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of people, I don't have the words. I don't know. I don't have the experience. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an addict. I don't know what to say. But
Yeah.
again, you just got to do the work. Just let me take you. And that guy didn't say anything to you. You know,
He didn't pierce my denial in that moment.
Right.
He just quietly smiled. And,
That's crazy.
I don't know. But here's what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't move them into your garage.
You want to save everybody.
I wouldn't try to figure out your own version of a program to help this person out, and I'm gonna make sure their finances are. They'll give me their check. Don't try to run your own program for this person.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go well. I can't think of a good story where that really went well. There's a lot of very good-hearted, grace-motivated, mercy-motivated church people who just want to love and help these guys. And unfortunately, when I'm in my mode, I could smell that grace, and I am going to suck that grace dry. And I'm going to hurt people. And so you got to be careful. Push them lovingly towards the resources in our area that are dealing with this day in and day out.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with this day in and day out. But those of us who've been doing it for 20 years, just let us do it and encourage people towards those people who are doing it well.
And I'm guilty of that. I like to be a problem solver, right? I like to say, well, I got the answers. I can figure that out. And a lot of times I can. Even my dad, when he was in the midst of his stuff, we moved him into our house for over a year and, poured into him. And I'm thankful for that time together because he got to really know my kids, but he left no different. Yeah. Went right back into it.
Yeah. And that's a great point because we are relying on God and to come into their lives and make that change, right? And you would think you could do that in your garage, right?
Sure.
But when you have these kind of resources, and this somebody that's been through them, and can't say enough good things about them, like they know what they're doing, and they know how to reach these guys. And then, so for the rest of us, it's how can we pour into these ministries ipso facto and pour into them.
And I would even say, to Stephen's point in his life experience, and I've had these kind of conversations with parents, I think it is better. It's beneficial to go into a Christian faith-based environment, but it's not 100% necessary. There's some guys who are just not ready for that, not going to do that, but God can work in them if they would get sober and clear-headed and be ready for a next step.
Man, it's like you can skip straight to that, or you can go through the other way and then eventually end up there.
Whatever it takes,
a long way.
though.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
You meet people where they're at. So, there's a lot of people who as a matter of fact, the majority of people we interview aren't ready for what we have going on, don't want to do it. But I had parents call me, it was last year, and these are funny folks, and they said, Dave, our son needs help, but he's not doing any of that Christian stuff, okay? So where do we send this kid? He's not doing that Christian
but they knew
stuff.
it wasn't going to work. That wasn't going to, it was going to be a turn off.
And I'm like, praise the Lord, he's ready for help. Let's call these 3 places. Whatever. It's better for people to get sober and get their minds straight, and they can make some better rational decisions along the way than to just keep on doing what they're doing.
What I loved about that, though, is that they knew to call you, and that even if you didn't have the answer to them, you was like, well, here, try this place.
Yeah.
You had somewhere else.
That's right.
That's
There's something about the humility that it takes just to ask for help on it in itself that God honors, even if you don't realize.
I mean, how many people we enable kids or our loved ones, we enable them because we don't want to admit ourselves that there's a problem. We want to make an excuse for them.
I'm sure every call that you get, you want everybody that every time that phone rings, that whoever's on the other side of it, you want them to come to know Jesus. I mean, you want that salvation, but you also have the realization that you're not saving people. Jesus does that. So no matter how they come to it, whether they go through some other program that's non-Christian or whatever, your job is to sit there and pray and do the work and let Jesus do the rest. And man, that's good.
So you got a group of guys there. Like typically, do you have like so many of them that are Christian, that are believers, and so many that aren't? And what's that dynamic like? Or
Well, there's no religious tests to come into Evans Training Center other than an open mind. So we get a mixed bag of guys. Some say that they are saved, and maybe they really are. Maybe they got saved in jail, and, or when they were a kid or whatever. But then there's some who come and they don't know anything about Jesus, other than they went to church a couple times when they were a kid. So it's a mixed bag. A lot of guys profess faith in Christ at Evans Training Center.
That's what I was curious about. So.
Either at Evans Training Center or we take them to Hope Church in Spartanburg on Sundays. Many men have professed faith in Christ at Hope Church in the middle of the service. It's a pretty evangelistic church. So many come to Christ. And then some, I'm thinking of a guy right now who everybody loves this guy. He's a really cool personality. And he was in our program last year. And he got about 3 months in, and he just had to say, I just to be honest with you, I got to be intellectually honest with you guys. I'm not buying this stuff. Okay, I'm not buying this Jesus stuff. I love the culture. I love the love, the friendships, the camaraderie, but I don't believe what you guys believe.
I can relate.
And no problem. We understand. I still planted all the seeds I could. I tried to help that guy as much as I can and share. I did plant seeds. Maybe they'll germinate one day. But he's getting help somewhere else. He went to a secular program, and he's still in a relationship with some of our guys, and we still love him. And he came. But
he's going to realize one day that all that good in him that's doing that, it's God, it's Jesus. You're going to realize.
But it's not like
it's not your own. It's not on your own.
Yeah.
It's not your own nature that's making him that way, and that's where I was, and it took a little bit of time.
It would be hard to graduate the whole program having never come to faith, because it's part of everything we do all day long.
Sure.
Because it's part of everything we do all day long, and that's what we got.
Yeah. We just don't see it.
Yeah, one of the most common questions a guy might be asked during the day at Evans Training Center when he brings an issue or a problem to the table is, well, what is God showing you about that? So if you're not good with believing God exists, it's gonna be hard to answer that question.
Man, good stuff. So, man, kind of ending this up, where do you still want to grow? Where's some?
That's a good question. So, my thought, I just sent a text to the leaders at Dunklin, which is the program that I went through down in Florida, and I just realized that I went to Dunklin half my life ago.
Wow.
So I was 21 when I went there. I'm 42 today. So I've been more time walking with the Lord now.
42 today?
Well, not today.
Oh, I think that.
Well, he is.
Not
But it didn't happen today.
this year.
So
I'll be 43 in May.
Okay.
I'm 42 and a half, Chucky.
Half, yeah.
Well, so your statement's true. You spent more time past this point than before. Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder, what does God have in store for me next? Obviously, I want to continue to do exactly what we are doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what's next. I'm looking at my family, my kids who are coming to teenage, and I'm thinking about them. Okay, I've got a short time left in my house with them. I want to grow as a father. I was on a Miracle Hill podcast before this one, and I admitted on that podcast I was not a good father to little kids.
Yeah.
I was just kind of an overwhelmed dad trying to escape the pressure of it all. I've grown up through that. My goal right now is to be a really good dad to these kids now and help them make good decisions and think well about their futures. So I want to continue to grow in that. And then I'm open-minded. I do feel like we've been in this new facility at Evans for just over a year. We'll be at full capacity maybe this week. So we've already maximized the space that we have. So what next? I don't want to rush out into a what next, but at 42 years old, Lord willing, I don't think I'm going to die anytime soon. I think God still wants to use me to help more people and do more stuff.
Ever since I turned 40, I always feel like I'm about to die. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
What is that?
What are you eating? Yeah, I got it.
Why am I hurting in my chest? What's going on here?
So I just want to keep an open mind. I will say that in our area, the most common question that people ask me when I'm talking about Evans Training Center, by far, is, what are you guys going to do to help women? And I'm like, I hear that all
You're doing
the time. Yes, we are by helping the men for sure. And I say that, but that's not what they mean.
Yeah, yeah.
They mean, what about a residential program and the model of Evans Training Center for women? That's what they mean. And I hear that again and again and again. I think back to a mentor that I had years ago who he basically what he said is a need is not a call. And so I'm trying to be careful to not just
Confuse it.
jump to meet that need.
Sure.
Like I'm called to do it. I might not be called to meet that need, but I've heard it enough that I'm starting to get open-minded to maybe I could be part of a team that does something specifically to help women. I'd be open to that.
Sure.
Yeah, if that's what the Lord wants me to do.
And we see that a lot, though. Even in my mission, I'm going after men.
Yeah.
But I do that because I know if we can get the men to really step up in their position, that's going to help the women.
Yeah.
But also in Uganda, they go after the boys, right, and trying to get the boys restored, and they don't have a place. They don't have something.
That's
for
what
the
it
girls
was.
yet.
That's what it was reminding me of.
Yeah. But man, I'm thankful for you, bro.
We're
Thankful.
gonna do a part 2, man. We're gonna have to follow up on some of these stories.
I know it.
I want to know when this guy who left to go the secular route. I want to know what happens there. I want to know what your son's fasting for. Yeah, I want it all the tea, dude.
Oh, me and Steven was going to be texting this week. What'd you find out?
No, in all seriousness, be in prayer for you and your son and whatever he's got going on, and
What I love is that we're sitting here talking, but I'm going to tell you now, in July timeframe, you're going to see us three sitting in Africa, sitting there doing this.
man, you over there writing checks, Chucky.
We doing it. We doing it. I got the two guys beside me going to Uganda with me.
Man.
We're excited. We got some of our kids going. Man,
Wow.
I need all three of you to help me protect Ava Lee.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm excited. But man, thank you for
yeah. Being here, spending the
being
time.
here. This is
And
awesome.
and somebody that watched all this come to fruition from the outside, for meeting with Chuck and opening up the doors, and I mean it's greater than I ever could imagine. Even when you were telling me, and I just knew that everything was right, timing was right, things were just going right because like I said, you were operating within God's will. You weren't forcing anything, and these things came to be as they should, and I just appreciate everything y'all do there.
Amen.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for joining You Are the Man podcast, and we will catch you next week. Later.
Bye.